I'm going to tell you a story about Fedi, and the story of the Fedi Ocean Distillery. Now, Fedi's based out in Norway, and talk about how they've created a brand that goes beyond the bottle in a saturated market. So I'm just going to start with a question. So how is brand impact achieved? So in a saturated marketplace, especially in the premium spirits category, there's a difference between shelf presence and cultural presence. But let's just hold that question and thought for a second. Bit about me. I'm Jason Dobson. I'm one of the co-owners of Contagious. We've worked in the spirits industry and specialised in the spirits industry for about 20 years. In that time, we work across all consumer touchpoints for brand and for product, and work predominantly from the boardroom all the way to consumer. So that covers everything from stakeholder engagement, then through to brand building, packaging, trade, consumer education, distributor education, internal education, distilleries, brand home, and visitor centres. So we work across all of those touch points. We work with new brands, startups, as well as multinational brands. Clients include Pernod, LVMH, Bacardi, and looking at Diageo as well. So we've been helped not just delivering brand in the drinks industry, but help with the culture and actually shaping what that is over the last 20 years. So back to the question. Before we go to that, we'll go back to this question here. So with Fedi, it had to be more than just a product lineup. The biggest challenge we had with Fedi, it's in Norway, and that is part of the Norwegian monopoly, which means you have a lot of stringent rules around that. So having to work in the monopoly, you need to be just more than a bottle on a shelf. So again, if you know the Norwegian monopoly, what that means is you cannot advertise whatsoever. There's no sponsorship, there's no branded events, there's no social media marketing, there's point of sale neutrality, and there's no education. You can only talk about education if it is purely fact-based. So when you're talking about taste, product, or origin. But Fedi was the power and was the sort of like vision of one woman's, and her name is Anna Kopang. Now, I apologise to any Norwegians in the room because my Norwegian pronunciation of names is awful. But Anna's aim was to empower women in the spirits and investment world. She saw two problems: a spirits industry dominated by men and a gender gap in the investment world. So if you don't know, about 80% of the stock market's value is controlled by men. So her answer was Fedi Distillery. And this is a a distillery that is powered by 100% female investment. So Fedi will only have female investors until they get gender parity is reached within the investment world. So what has happened is Fedi's become a force for good. And at the heart of Fedi's ambition is to have a level playing field over those two areas. So it actively encourages women to invest by building a first women ownership structure. They have and created their own investor education program that supports women new to finance. So they're not just creating whiskey, they're creating a model of empowerment. And Fedi now offers it's more than ROI that it offers to its investors. It's about providing a belonging. So Fedi then, where is Fedi? It's on an island called Fea, which, if you know the map of Norway, you've got the northwest of Norway, and then you have dots and dots and dots and dots of islands, and in those dots of islands are other dots, and Fedi is a tiny speck within that. It is so remote. It gets battered by the North Sea consistently. So it's a beautiful island, but it's not just scenic, it's also very symbolic to the brand. And this is where Fedi's story starts. That's where the distillery is. It used to be an old brewery. So using this place as a brand anchor and a storytelling device, you were able to ground their identity, both in the natural forces of the island itself, but also as a social movement. So Fedi has three strong, very brand pillars: powered by women, made for progress, and born on Fea Island. And each phrase captures a brand value, and all of these brand values come into their overall manifesto. So these aren't, external marketing lines. They're very much guiding principles that affect every decision that this brand makes. So whether that be from investment criteria to communications, or as they move forward to expansion, they will be looking at these values consistently. But they also have values in action, values that create a response. And these are their 4 brand traits. And they live these values daily within everything that they consider and everything that they do. So they're powerfully feminine, progressively Nordic, quietly courageous, so they're not unapologetically different, yet never boastful. And they're sustainably honest. And sustainability is a key part of what they are as a brand. It's baked into their process, their products, and their partnership. So these values aren't just things that should be aspirational to the brand. They should be very operational. Being in their location, Fedi had to understand not just what their local consumer wanted, but also their global opportunity. So locally, Fedi offers meaningful experience to people who are looking for the authenticity and connection to the island. And globally, it taps into a broader consumer shift. So this is people that want brands that are progressive, ethical, and contribute to a better world. Their audience looks very much beyond the label. They care about the values, they care about the community, and they care about the honesty of the brand. And for them, Fedi's not just a drink, it's a symbol of belonging. Spirits brands often talk about wood types, aging, and barrels, but Fedi talks about people, and you'll see that there's been a center to this brand all the way through. It's very much emotional before rational. While product credentials are very, very vital, they matter most at the consideration stage. But what draws consumers in is the emotional resonance, the story, the people, the movement. So here, marketing is very much equals logic, and the brand is all about emotion. So Fedi's very much proof that purpose and quality are not mutually exclusive, but they amplify each other. Fedi's brand world has storytelling at every touch point. There's no cliches here. There's no whiskey cliches. There's no flavor notes. It's very much aligned with who they are. It's clean, it's minimal, and it's very Nordic in design. The imagery focuses on the islands, communicating again where they're born, so back to the values of born in Freya. You have the images of the women that are investing within this. So you again talking about that powered by women message is continuous all the way through. And every design choice and reference goes back to the story and the progressiveness and the storytelling, highlighting the landscape, the people, and the community. So that story is always front and center when there's any communication about the brand. However, again, being in a dark market, your packaging then has to become more than a piece of packaging, more than something that holds liquid. So there's 750 dots, which represent the initial 750 investors, and there's 520 dashes, and they represent the inhabitants on the island. As we continue to make new releases, those dots and dashes will be updated. The glass will be reformed to consistently show the development in the community and also within the investors. At the moment, there are now 1,100 investors, and I think we're up to 720 inhabitants on the island. We wanted the bottle not just to talk about and have a sustainability sticker on it, it had to live it. So we've got a bottle and a cap that weighs just 450 grams, hence why we've got a screw cap. It's lighter. It's 25% lighter than industry standard. So again, when you're looking at your carbon footprint and the weight of what you're traveling, that's very much ethically part of the brand. We created new transport routes from Norway. So we looked at the original transport routes and changed them to fit the brand to make sure that we were actually using less energy and we had a shorter distance to travel. So that sustainability continues through everything else. So all about the organic ingredients we're getting from the island. We use local label suppliers, newly created transport routes, which I talked about. It's a very much community-focused product. The island are bought into this product. It doesn't have an eco sticker on the bottle, on the label. The sustainability is their business strategy, and it's rooted very much in the realities of the island. But that's all well and good. It's a nice story, great product, nice brand, but does it work? Yes, it's had real market success. So with the 6,500 bottles they released in batch 1 in last November, sold out within 2 weeks. They sold more bottles in Norway than all the other Norwegian brands put together, and they were selling about 500 litres more than some of the major world brands that are also in that market. So what that's created is then more investors, which will keep rising. Gin sales are forecast to double. Their production is going to be expanded into 2025. They've got new listings with international retailers, and they're now looking to export into the UK later on this year or early in 2026. So what does Fedi teach us? Fedi teaches us that, in a modern and challenged marketplace, that brands must mean something, as was talked about just before me. It's how you build loyalty, it's how you create advocacy, and for Fedi, how a tiny island in the middle of the North Sea off the coast of Norway has had the biggest whiskey launch ever within Norway. So in summary, brand stories cut through where specs cannot. Purpose isn't just a trend. Purpose is the future of branding. Without your brand having a purpose, you can't drive it through and attract the consumer and the trade. And emotion builds brands. It connects people to your brand, which then pulls them into the product. So emotion builds brand, and logic sells product. And that's why Fedi is more than just a bottle on a shelf. Thank you.